tariffs. No one at the ports is collecting Trump's tariffs. So in other words, he made this big show. Liberation Day, all the tariffs are being put on. They start at midnight. Well, as I pointed out to you at the time, we literally don't have the staff that would be needed, the numbers that are needed. And Elon is gutting all of these sorts of agencies that have these sorts of people that do a job like this. Come to find out, nobody was collecting the tariffs. What? Now, again, that's a good thing because it delays the inevitable massive price increases and inflation for the bottom 99% of Americans who fucking can't afford to buy consumer goods if they spike in price. But it's bad yet again because he should have never done this in the first place, and it proves we are not good to our word anymore. Our word is trash. He can change his mind in an instant with a fucking Truth Social post. Ready? Tariffs since April 5th on semiconductors will be refunded. As this person points out, External Revenue Service is now the External Refund Service. So they weren't collecting the tariffs, but to the extent they did collect any tariffs, all the tariffs on semiconductors in particular will be refunded. What the fuck? And so let me show you this too. Donald Trump's administration exempted smartphones, computers, and other electronics from its so-called reciprocal tariffs in win for Apple. This lowers China tariffs from 125%. Okay, as Matt Iglesias points out, good for Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple. But if the way to keep your business viable is to lobby and cajole Donald Trump for tariff exemptions, then the whole thing becomes at best a protection racket for large incumbent businesses and at worst an orgy of corruption. So in other words, the theory of, every country and every company has to come hat in hand on their knees begging to Trump for exemptions, and he gets off on having that sort of immense power, then yes, what it does is it opens up the door for insane mafia corruption. Yeah, I'll lower the tariffs, but I'll lower it from 20% to 5%, but I get a percentage point, right? Or I get a flat rate of however many millions of dollars. This is where we're at. And Trump feels he got away with 91 crimes in the past, and the Supreme Court basically gave him immunity for any official actions, so he would do this and say, hey, this is part of my official actions. But, again, after we get this news, Howard Lutnick goes out, he's a Trump administration official, goes out and he says, oh, no, the tariffs, there were no exemptions. We don't know what you're talking about. No, there were no exemptions, and they're going in place. It's just going to be like a month or so, or 90 days or whatever it was, until they're in place. So first we hear there are exemptions or exceptions where, hey, for electronics, we can't do it because it would just destroy the economy massively, right? We just can't do it. We can't afford to do it. We don't have the ability to make these things here. It would be a disaster. We hear that, and then immediately after, Howard Lutnick's like, oh, that's fake news. There are no exemptions. Then Trump also comes out and says, there are no exemptions. I don't know what you're talking about. But what I will say is you went from one tariff bucket into another tariff bucket. So then when I read that from Trump, I'm going, is he just trying to save face? Like, are there going to be no tariffs on the electronics, but he's just trying to save face? And that's why he's pretending? Like, no, the tariffs are still there. There's no exceptions. I'm telling you, there are none. But what we're doing is taking it from one bucket and putting it in another bucket, and that's why people think that that's going to be an exemption, but it's not. So it's either him trying to save face and just lie about, oh yeah, the tariffs will be back in place, but they won't be, or he's serious and we're right back to square one where everything is barbecue chicken, where this economy is barbecue chicken, this country is barbecue chicken. Which, by the way, even if you do just exempt the electronics, well, you're still fucking over so many other sectors of the economy, right? There's still going to be massive inflation in so many other areas, whether it's food or textiles or what have you, a lot of different consumer goods. So it's still bad, even if you just exempt the electronics. Okay, but ready? Now let me give you the timeline here. This is since Wednesday, right? There were universal reciprocal tariffs, which, by the way, weren't reciprocal at all. It was like 4 times higher than reciprocal because they used a cockamamie theory to get the numbers, which included the trade deficit, which it's not reciprocal. This is not reciprocal. A removal back down to 10%. So universal reciprocal tariffs that weren't reciprocal. A removal back down to 10%. 50% Chinese tariffs, then that went up to 90, then that went up to 104, then that went up to 125, then that went up to 145. Then electronics were exempted. Then electronics are now potentially back on. And as this dude points out, he says, if you were a CFO of a Fortune 500 company, would you approve any new investment in a country this unstable? Answer honestly. Everybody knows the answer to that. It is fucking no times 1,000. No times 1,000,000,000,000. Of course you fucking wouldn't. And then, of course, guess what else is happening? The dollar is still plummeting. Because, again, what the world recognizes is we can't rely on America. So having their currency as the world reserve currency, it's just a matter of time until America turns on you or threatens to invade you or does invade you or does a trade war with you and ruins your economy. And so what's happening right now is almost literally all of the other big player countries, they're now in negotiations with each other. They're going to cut the U.S. out of their deals and they're going to make deals with each other, and they're more stable countries and they will remain good to their word. And so, I mean, do you realize how much Trump has to be an idiot and fuck up so hard to make it so that Canada is like, hey, we're going to do primary business with China. You know, Mexico is going, we're going to deepen ties with Canada and China and the EU and all these other, like everybody else is getting together and planning for the future of global stability with trade between themselves. And the United States is over here engaged in a fucking one-sided trade war where he changes his mind every other day about what the fucking tariff rate is going to be. He does exemptions, then he takes away the exemptions and says there wasn't an exemption. And at the same time, the market is absolutely imploding. Prices are going to absolutely skyrocket. The dollar is plummeting. Because remember, guys, it used to be the case in a recession, yes, the market would go down, but the dollar would get stronger. Because people do what's called a flight to safety. Knowing the dollar is the world reserve currency, they'd rather have cash than stocks. So the dollar gets stronger as the market goes down. This time, as the market goes down, the dollar's going down too. So we're not talking about a standard recession anymore. We're talking about the destruction of the global trade order and the implosion of the dollar and getting off of it as the world reserve currency, and a nightmare scenario for people living in this country. That's what we're talking about. And so, I mean, what is there to even say at this point? China is humiliating Trump. And now they release some statement basically being like, bitch, get down on your knees and beg. Get down on your knees and beg. They released a statement like he's going to have to do a lot more than just exempt electronics if you want to put this train back on the tracks. That's China going, really? You thought you'd win a fucking standoff with us? We are the manufacturing hub of the world now. We are an ascendant nation. America's on the decline. You want to fix it? Basically get down on your knees and beg, bitch. It ain't going to be that simple. And he just can't help but continually take out his gun and shoot himself in the dick. And whatever the news is today on tariffs, tomorrow it's going to be different, and the day after it's going to be fucking different. But what's guaranteed is, in the long run, the dollar's plummeting, the market's plummeting. We're in for a world of fucking hurt because we're run by not only evil people, but also totally stupid and incompetent people who don't know the first fucking thing about economics. Right? Even this notion that they float half the time, oh, it's going to revive American manufacturing. Really? The exact fucking opposite is happening. We've covered stories so far of at least 3 different factories that were going to be built that now, because of Trump's tariffs, they go, we got to abandon the factory. We can't afford the raw materials to build the factory. So the idea is going to revive American manufacturing. The exact opposite is happening. Trump froze the money for the CHIPS Act. That would have been 115,000 new high-paying manufacturing jobs, but he got rid of it because Biden did it, and he wanted to say, fuck you to Biden. So factories are fleeing. Factories are fleeing. And he's freezing the funding for the factories we were going to have. No stability, no certainty, no fucking serious plan. But the irony of it all is Trump said one time, I believe in his first term or just before it, the one president I don't want to be remembered as Herbert Hoover. I don't want to be remembered as Herbert Hoover. Well, guess what? He is on track to have a very, very comparable record to Herbert Hoover. Because he's the guy who massive deregulation, massive tax cuts for the rich, there for the Great Depression, made it worse with his actions, right? Did austerity during the Great Depression, which exacerbated it. And Trump is on track to do the same shit. As the market tanks, as the dollar tanks, you know, they're going to keep cutting the social safety net at the same fucking time. Never mind not cutting the social safety net and doing stimulus for the people.